Hi, my name is Kira Joe, and welcome to Open Mouth. This show is based on the saying that closed mouths don't get fed, so we're going to be talking with a wide range of creatives and entertainment industry professionals who are making unique moves in their fields. We're going to hear their stories, see what we can learn from them, and apply it to our own goals. So, start off this week, we're going to be talking with Corrin Evans and Lily Cowles, the talented duo behind the new film Corpus that just premiered at Fantasia Film Festival. This film is so beautiful and erotic and mysterious, and I had such a great time watching it and getting to know the people behind it and hearing their whole creative process. They are friends first and creative partners second, and they just have an amazing business model that I would love to show you guys. So you both have a lot of experience in entertainment, but with different backgrounds. So, Corinne, a lot of your work is in intimacy coordination, and then Lily, you've, primarily been an actress. So what do you think you've brought from past experiences to this project that people who maybe only have writing background, directing, that they might not consider, especially given the erotic and very actor-driven nature of this film?
That's for sure. That's such a great question. Corinne, do you want to start? Or do you want me to hop in?
Go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
a heavy one to start with. I know I apologize for
No, it's
that, but
great. I love that. I think that's such a smart observation. I think as an actor, coming from it as an actor background, I will say I've always been a storyteller. So I've always been creating my own content. Like I made a web series. Corinne and I actually met on a web series. I did not write it, but I've always liked creating my own work because I just have a voice. I like to be able to like use my voice and express it. But as an actor, you just get so good. I mean, I spent years in LA auditioning for like hundreds of thousands of parts, and I think it's also something that I just have. I have an ear for character. I really like thinking about the ways people speak. What is it? What is it that makes a character? How do they talk? How do they think? How are they reasoning through things? So I think what I was bringing to the writing partnership was really like a sense of voice. I loved creating character voices, particularly Ross. Corinne and I often laugh about Ross being like I have like that dog inside of me, but
A part of you.
it's truly like Ross c'est moi, yeah. But I think bringing that kind of character and different perspectives, that was something that as an actor, I've worked that muscle so much so that when I brought it into collaboration with Corinne as a writer, I think I was pulling a lot from that.
My background, like you said, I've worked a lot in intimacy coordination, but prior to that, I did it all, and even through that, I've done it all. So I also edited the film. I used to do a lot of shooting and just like lighting my own work, and so I've kind of done on a small scale. I've done like every job on set for the most part, not to the level of like the craftspeople that were working on Corpus by any means, but I did like a lot of small music videos and small productions where I was doing pretty much everything on set. And on one of those productions is where I met Lily, the web series that she mentioned, that she was acting in. I was directing, running sound, running the lighting,
Wow.
painting the set, like doing it all. So my background really comes from that DIY filmmaking space. And that's sort of yeah, just where I got all of my experience. I didn't go to film school, I didn't go to college, I barely graduated high school. I just sort of jumped right into working in the film industry. I was also an actor for a while. And with intimacy work, I think that obviously was able to inform my collaboration with our intimacy coordinator, Chelsea Pace. I intimacy coordinating, it's a rather new field, as I'm sure you know. I started doing it in like 2018. And prior to that, I had already been directing a lot of short form content and stuff like that. So I was coming into intimacy work already with that directing background. And that also, there was a lot of intimacy in my early short films and music videos that I did. So yeah, so that and then learning through coordinating on larger productions, sort of learning how that works and how to get ahead of it with like more of the paperwork side is really helpful because I think as boring as this is, I think a lot of directors don't really know how to work with an intimacy coordinator and aren't really aware of like, you know, how early they should be bringing them into conversations or like how it works with the writers, which are the documents that contain the information about what the actor is agreeing to do on screen and to show on screen. And so I think just my background in that field also helped there be like less friction, I think, with that department, where as I think when, you have a director that's less experienced with intimacy work, there can just be sometimes unnecessary friction just because they don't understand like how it works.
And also, just looking back at some of your older projects, short films and music videos and everything, you've kind of always had um, this theme of, shadow integration and eroticism and all of that. How did that interest first form, and how does that play into your life outside of work as well?
Yeah, I think I was raised in a very religious community. It's like I was homeschooled in middle school and I was like in church functions, like 3, 4 times a week. I was at Bible study fellowship, catechism, not Catholic, but we also had catechism, which I know Catholics, as Lily was raised Catholic, have catechism as well. And so being in that environment, I think inherently makes you interested in those types of themes, whether or not you want to run away from them or run towards them. But I think like the Bible is full of stories that are dark and sexual and violent. And I think for me, being raised in that community and being someone that was drawn towards sex and eroticism and seeing it in the Bible, seeing it in these stories, and then being told, yeah, but like you can't have sex until you're married, and you can't you shouldn't display erotic desire, especially as a woman. That's dangerous. That's evil. And a lot of that messaging was not coming from my parents. It was more coming from just the church community. And so I think having that background and then having to break out of it and embrace like who I truly am through my expressions of eroticism, both in my personal life as a performer. I also perform with an erotic performance art troupe in LA called Sweven. And so embracing that, I think my sexuality was how I first got interested in shadow integration, was like, okay, let me take this part of myself that I've been told is bad and try to find healthy outlets for it. And then naturally, it made its way into my films. And I think with my early work, I still felt nervous or like some shame around sharing it. Whereas with Corpus, I feel just excited. I just feel excited to share this work and share like the vulnerable work that actors like Lily did, as you know. And yeah, just show people it's okay to express themselves erotically in that way.
Yeah, so Lily, at least to my knowledge, this is the first film that you produced. Is that correct?
That's true. I guess I technically produced a short film that was how Corinne and I
Oh,
really started
yes. First
collaborating together.
feature.
But it was a totally different experience. And yeah, it was a really exciting thing to do. And if you had asked me like in 2021 or 2022, whether I thought that I was capable of doing that, I would have been like, there's absolutely no way that I could do that. That's not something that I really, it was a skill set that I was in real time discovering. But it was such an exciting and fulfilling thing to have. I mean, we had an amazing team, Corinne and I, collaborating to write this thing. I mean, I remember when we finished writing the first draft, I had this overwhelming feeling like we're going to make this film. Like I just like deeply was like, this film it's going to happen. We're going to make this. Um, and I think if you had, if I had told someone in the industry that, they would probably have been like, okay, honey, like, that's like great, good attitude. That's probably how you go and everything. But little by little, like it was just coming together. And I think Corinne and I, we really were so serious in the way that we showed up continually. We just kept showing up for it. And producing this was a process of, I mean, I jokingly say that like for about 8 months, I lived such a different life because I didn't second guess myself. I could not afford to second guess myself for like 8 months. And I
Mhm.
lived in this kind of alternate version of myself where I was so driven and locked in. I had these like blinders on. All I could think about was like, we have to just get to the next step. We have to make this film. There was like some kind of fight. There was that dog in me came out. Um, but I had an amazing amount of people who helped me along the way to do that because it was all brand new and it feels very, very high stakes. But it was really one of the most exciting and fulfilling. I think it's probably the thing I'm the most proud of in my whole life to date.
So diving into the story a little bit, there are a lot of aspects in the film that are, kind of hinted at, but kind of ultimately left unanswered. So, Sayo and Vince's, romantic history or just kind of the whole lore with all of this supernatural stuff. We don't really know fully what's going on. And I'm wondering how much of that you guys have, how much world building you've done and how much you kind of said this is up to the actors, this is up to the audience to interpret. What did that process look like?
Mm.
I think there's a lot of world building that happened between Lily and I in the writing process that it, on purpose does not make it onto the screen. I think for me as a consumer of film, personally, I prefer when movies like leave me space to lean in and leave me space to interpret things. And also when maybe unnecessary information isn't there. I think for me, with Vince and Seo, leaving that you understand. I mean, I hope I hope the audience understands when, Vince walks in Seo's apartment and you can just, he's been there before. He's comfortable there and like the way that the actors move and work, that it could be come through in that. But I think Lily and I did, we did a lot of talking about like what is the history between them like? Like what is the history of these women? Like really, Lily and I truly, if somebody said, "Hey, it's time to write the prequel," like we've got it, of like how the mask came to be, how the three women, the three people met each other. And yeah, like she and I know all of that information, but I think, leaving that space for and I'll let you speak to it too, Lily, but leaving that space for the audience was something that was really important to me. Um, just because, yeah, I'm so annoyed in movies when I'm being sh told too much and not allowed that space to like lean
Mhm.
in.
And it's such a common feature of like so much content that's being made right now. It's like hit it over the head because people audiences are on their phone or audiences aren't watching. So
Yeah.
you have to continually tell them exactly what's going on. And we really didn't want to do that. I think primarily we wanted this to be a story about a dynamic between two people and really like a meditation on desire and that the longing that I think so many of us have experienced. I know certainly I have experienced. I mean, the dynamic between Seo and Vince was pulled from really a relationship that I have experienced. I'm sure Corrin also was like pulling from things. It's like, who among us has not had a deep yearning? I hope that we all have. And that was really what we wanted to be centered in it. And then all this crazy shit's happening all around, and we get to go on this like wild ride with them. But I think what Corinne does so beautifully as a director is really honoring that emotional landscape and getting to really dig into that. I mean, both Corinne and I think, have really deep spiritual practices. We come from we want things to be deep and to go emotionally deep and really to have meaning. So to create a film that's like a horror caper, it's really fun. I think it's a really fun and muscular ride. I'm really proud of the script that we made, but I think at the heart of it, there's real depth. Um, and I think that was always our goal. It was all of these details, small details that we get to understand about the women or about the backstory. We hope that the specificity shows that there's real intention behind everything, but the focus was really on this relationship dynamic.
Friend, about your podcast, I know Lily was on. I listened to the episode, and
You have done your research,
I have
okay?
done my research, and you said that Lily is one of your favorite people, which is so sweet. And it makes me wonder, how do you kind of balance your friendship with your business partnership, and to what extent do you see those kind of blending together in like a healthy way or unhealthy way, or how does that go?
I mean, I think it's kind of just been blended from the beginning. Well, I
Yeah.
guess we met under business circumstances and then we continued. I mean, I'll just speak from my perspective on it. We can and then you can go, Lily, but we continued with business. So like the whole thing was based on business initially. And then when Lily reached back out to me to do Toothless, which is her amazing series that we did like a little, I came in to direct the short for her, but it was really her baby, her vision. Um, so it was business first, and then in working, I think from my side, I just discovered all these things about Lily that were so compatible with me, both creatively and as a friend. Like she was saying before, we both have such a obsession with spirituality and desire to go deeper than just the surface and go deeper uh, in the work. And I think it would be kind of have been impossible for us not to become friends, just because of the compatibility and like our interests, and then B, also we were just working so closely together and we're like pulling things out from our souls and our body to like put on screen. And I find it very difficult to not become friends with most people that I'm creatively collaborating with in general. Because if we're continuing a creative collaboration over time, like there's a reason that that's happening. And with Lily, like for me, a lot of that reason was her ability just to go deeper than most people can go, and willing to like pull these things out and share them, both with me and then also with the script.
The nature of creative work is that you are constantly forced to like face your own limitations. Like they just slam up in your face if as you're trying to create things. And like the life, I think, of an artist across so many different, media, but like you're just going to be slammed in the face over and over again with your own shit that you've got to sort through and deal with. And the people who are there beside you going through that, either witnessing you or in it with you, or you're watching them go through it and you're supporting them, or it's like you develop a deep intimacy with these people. I mean, I would be friends with Corinne if we never worked together. Like, let it be known.
Yeah,
I would
totally.
be
Same,
total
same. I
pals
didn't
with
mean
you
to, I didn't
if
mean to
we
say
were.
it was only because of work.
Yeah.
Business first, friends second.
Yeah, exactly. But like it's sort of impossible to not form these like deep bonds when you're in the trenches like that. I'm so grateful for my relationship with Corinne. I have grown so much as a human being, certainly as an artist, definitely as a professional, but as a human being, the way that I relate to other people, I've grown so much because of our relationship. I'm like deeply, deeply grateful. And it's not to say that it's not sometimes complicated, because there are moments that you're in it and you're like, there's intimacy, there's friendship, there's also business. It's like it's not always on the same track. They're not always like wanting the same thing. But the level that we can go to because of that, I think it's extraordinary. And I would take it every single time. And yeah, it's been an absolute honor to be your friend and collaborator.
Same,
Oh,
same.
thank you so much, Corinne and Lily, for coming on. I was actually their first interview for the Corpus press tour, which is so ironic because they were my first interview for this whole show. Next, we're going to be talking with Carlos Lerma, who's an indie director, producer, editor, and everything in between. Such a talented guy, so inspiring, and has a lot of really cool, kind of frustrating stories about getting his start in entertainment. So, you did a TEDx talk titled, If You Want to Be the Star, Create the Show. I think a lot of people think this is easier said than done. So, how do you think people can get the confidence or get the resources to go and do this?
It also requires a lot of delusion because when I first started out in entertainment, one of the big things I wanted to do was be on screen. And at the time, I had never done anything even remotely close to anything in entertainment. But I had a friend in my school that did a commercial or an indie film or something. And I asked him, how do you do this? And he was like, oh, my agent got it for me. And I was like, oh, sick. Then I'll just go to the store and get an agent.
The
So
store.
the store. And I talked to my mom about it and I was like, hey, can I get an agent to like be on movies and stuff? And she was like, no. We can't know. So then I actually researched what is it that I was asking about, and I was like, oh, I don't have, I can't have an agent. So immediately after, I was like, I still want to be in movies and all this other stuff, so I'll just act in it. Nobody's gonna stop me. So that's how I got my start doing like short films on YouTube where I directed it myself, wrote it myself, acted in it myself. And over the course of the years, I've grown as an artist and I've learned to hire gaffers and grips and DPs and first ACs and all that fun stuff. Um, but the flame of like I want to be on screen has never faded. So over the course of the years, I've acted in one or two of my shorts whenever the story is personal enough or too close to home enough that requires that.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I saw one of your short films. I'm blanking on the exact name right now, but it was like, I feel like it was like your life story. It was like immigrant, missing a birthday, like
Yeah.
But yeah, like speaking on that, you've said that film and media in general have like kind of been an escape for you from any like troubles in real life. So how do you feel that like since a lot of your stories are dealing with like real life things, how do you kind of separate that escape with like your career and keeping those separate so that you still have that safe space?
That is an excellent, it's an excellent question. Here's the best advice ever that I was given is when they first start out, it starts as a hobby. So I was in school and filming was my hobby or editing or all this other stuff. And that became my hobby. And then once it got bigger and bigger, it became my job. And when your job is also your life, whenever you have a bad day at work, you kind of have a bad day in general. So when I started having a lot of those, because in the indie space, sometimes I will not get into a film festival and then I will just ruin my day, or an edit didn't come out how I wanted, or I'm looking back at playback and I'm realizing that the sound isn't could have been better. Um, but what I did do after I had a lot of those moments is I started looking at other hobbies. I started playing soccer or football a lot more. And my favorite one is I got an electric bike. Um, and to kind of just joyride, kind of aimlessly just ride around the city and kind of just forget about stuff because especially entertainment can get very overwhelming. And as a fun fact, when I had my electric bike when I used to live in Chicago, the day before the day before I started working at the Criterion Collection, I got ran over by a car. And that did not stop me to showing up to work the next day. So get a hobby.
Can we define getting run over? Like,
Yeah, so I went to my best friend's house and I was riding back. It was a 30-minute bike ride. I was riding back and I was going down a street and then a car was coming out of an exterior parking lot and I just kind of collided with them and I flew over the hood of a car.
hospital?
No, I rode
No.
back on my bike and I went home because I was like, I need to recover because I was starting my gig at the Criterion Collection the very next day and I could have clocked out, but also the money I was going to use from Criterion, I was going to use for a passion project. And I had like 20 plus people relying on that money that I was going to get from working. So I was like, there's no way in hell that I'm missing work.
That is such a good example of like the domino effect that happens. If you don't show up to your day job,
Yeah.
then you can't do your passion project, then like all these people are let down. But yeah, you were talking about Chicago. Correct me if any of this is wrong, but you went Mexico, Chicago, LA for a minute, New York. This is all from like LinkedIn locations.
That was spot on. So
Awesome.
I've lived all my life in Mexico, in Monterrey, Mexico, and then I decided to go to college in Chicago. And I did 3.5 years there where I worked at a bunch of really awesome places, met a lot of really cool people and collaborators. And then through my school, I did a semester in Los Angeles where you get to kind of meet a lot of LA people, network, and part of the program is to be an intern at some place to be accepted into a program. So I was an executive assistant for a bit for these two awesome girls who run a really awesome business. And then after that, I went back to Chicago to graduate, and then I kind of just needed an excuse to move to New York. So I was job searching for New York, and now I work at a really cool studio for a minute, and I'm here.
So obviously all these places are very different overall, but especially like with the entertainment industry. So how has each place kind of acted as a different backdrop to your career? What does that look like?
I think Chicago is the best, at least for me, was the best starting pad for working in entertainment because it's a big city, but I feel like it was just the best starter because it's not as huge as New York and it's not as demanding as LA. So I think had I started in any of those other two cities, with me personally, it would have chewed me alive. So it's a great start. Um, and then in LA, it's kind of just go, go, go 24/7 and everybody's always networking and you always kind of have like that chip on your mind of being like, okay, this like it's work because entertainment is like work 24/7, really. And with New York, it's kind of the same as LA where it's kind of 24/7, but I think every city has its pros and cons as anything in life, but I've learned a lot of really valuable things from each city.
Do you think it's possible to have like a fully successful, fully fulfilling film career not in New York or LA?
I think yeah. I think if you're in entertainment in any sort of capacity, once you're really deep into it, you're bound to stumble across at least LA. Um, but I'm yeah, 100%. Because I started when I was doing films in Mexico, I got like far enough. So I was like, yeah,
You
100%.
also really get to know the entertainment communities in these places where it's not as huge because it's more manageable to meet people
Yeah,
when it's not the
yeah,
entire city.
that is true. That is true because especially in LA, where where even when you're at a coffee shop, like you're not even talking to people, but like just like overhearing people either on the phone or with friends, everybody's talking about like a project, an actor, something. So it's definitely like a really unique experience living in Los Angeles.
Do you think that makes you feel more motivated or more kind of like maybe you're not good enough? How does that make you feel being surrounded by people who are doing what you're doing?
It's both because especially in Los Angeles, I remember I was especially when I was an assistant, I used to be surrounded by a lot of really awesome people who are at stages of their career where I dream about at the moment. So I would be in these like spaces where I would just overhear people being like, "Oh yeah, my Netflix show this, my HBO movie that." So I was like, "Damn, like I don't know what these people are doing that is making them advance so much that I feel like I'm just stuck, but at the same time it really makes me look at myself and look at areas of improvement."
So I don't want to go and have to craft a perfect leading question. You told me that you have a lot of stories that you want to tell, and I'm excited to hear them. Obviously, we are open mouth. We're all about asking for what you want, closed mouths don't get fed, all of that. So
I
I
love that
think,
motto, by the way.
thank
That's
you.
such a
Me
cool
too.
motto.
I mean, it's basically your TED Talk, like in a way, like if you want something, you have to go and get it yourself. Like no one's
Yeah,
gonna give it
for
to you.
real.
What do you think is the biggest thing that you've asked for that you then got?
I would say my job. One of my favorite stories is like I used to I applied to work at a company and I got hired. I did the onboarding, but making it in entertainment is hard, but I feel like doing it as an immigrant is like so much harder. So every single time I go into job interviews, it's kind of like saying, "Hey, I'm an international student." So, and sometimes it's a big turnoff for a lot of companies, and it is what it is. But this time around, they were like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, cool." So I was like, "Great." So then they hired me. They did the onboarding. And a couple of months later, they called me up and they were like, "Hey, we don't hire international students." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I got out of it. So I got softly offboarded, but against my better judgment, my mom was like, "Hey, you should like just try reaching out to them." So I reached out to my future former employer and I was like, "Hey, let's call him Jeff. Hey, Jeff, I would be down to work for free. I don't even want the money. Like, I want the experience. It's such a cool place." And he was like, "Hey, I don't, there's really nothing I can do about it. It's like a lot of HR's call, and I'm so sorry, but I can't do anything." So then I call HR again and I emailed a bunch of people. And long story short, like after a month of trying, I got my job back. So my advice on that end is like, if you're in a situation where your job gets taken away from you, just try again.
That's crazy
That's
because like if it's like a company policy, that's them going like directly against their policy just because you asked.
yeah. And going off of that, so I get hired now, I get my job back, and after I work there and my contract ends, I was getting happy hour with a couple of my coworkers and one of my coworkers' boss. And he was gonna asking me like, "Hey, like we didn't get to interact that much when you worked here. Like, what's your story? Like, And I was like, hey, like I'm this person. My name's Carlos. I came up like this, and I got the job. And I just shared the story that I told you. And he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, that's wild because I feel like me and one more person had like an international student in their like roster of candidates, and we all had to turn them down because we don't hire international students. Like that's like a rule. So I don't know what you did, but it worked. And he was the one to say you are a one in a million case and you should be happy with what you did and best of luck. And when I was doing the actual offboarding once I finished my term, HR kind of calls us in and they're like, "Hey, so do you have any feedback for us?" And everybody kind of just goes like, "No, I had a great time. Like, I thank you for having me. Thank you for this opportunity." And I was like, "I have something to say."
Be more clear about
And
who you'll take,
and
or
I
just
was
take us.
and I was like, I actually do have a piece of feedback and take it with a grain of salt, but you should hire international students because we're great and I'm it's great that I got the opportunity, but I'm kind of sad that this is not going to happen again for some other person. And they were like, hey, you know what? It was kind of like I was talking with the messenger, like the HR lady, she was just there like doing being the messenger, but she's great. I love her to death. And yeah, I hope that with this to just make some sort of change with those types of things, especially with students. I understand with out of college graduates, it's a little bit more difficult, but with students, give international students a shot.
And then what about maybe something that you asked for that you didn't get, but it's still like, you asked?
So recently I just moved to New York. I'm just kind of just looking for opportunities because I'm about to finish off my internship at gigantic studios here in the city. And I somehow cold applied my way into being an executive assistant to an A-list director who shall remain unnamed. But with this, I really want to start a conversation with cold applications versus referrals slash nepotism because it's very disheartening when you see somebody just get an opportunity purely because of XYZ. But to make a long story short, I cold applied for this position and it was a confidential listing. So usually with confidential listings, it's one for two reasons. One is somebody's about to get fired, or two, um, somebody is really high profile. So I get asked to interview, and during the interview, they reveal that it's for an A-list director. And after they asked me like my qualifications and what I could bring to the role, and also when they first revealed this to me, I had to really keep my cool because it's somebody like I really, really admire. But in the end, they did say they were going to recommend me to move forward, and then I did. And and one day I just kept emailing back and forth with HR, and then eventually they reached out again, basically saying, "Hey, it was between you and two other guys. The two other guys were um referrals from executives here, so we won't be moving forward with you. But I do want to congratulate you because you made it this far with a cold application, which is really hard to do. And one of the things that it's a blessing and a curse is that I speak my mind. So to this very high profile person, well, not him, but one of his people. I was like, hey, you know what? I appreciate that, but I mean, I will say I wish I was given a fair opportunity for this role before it got narrowed down to just referrals. But I appreciate your time. Sorry about bugging you with this all week, and best of luck. But it was really disheartening to see kind of I was put through the ringer of this interviews and stuff, and these two guys just swoop in.
And what did
I
they say when you were like, I wish I had a shot? Did they
they
respond?
were they were like, just yeah, we'll keep your resume and we'll keep you in mind, but that's kind of about it.
Right. We'll keep your resume in our pile and yeah.
But on to the next. I those things happen. It won't be the first, it won't be the last time it happens. So on to the next.
You need the no's to get the yeses.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, what advice do you have for people who are cold applying, don't have that referral, don't have that contact? What have you been doing that it is getting you the roles or getting you even these big interviews? Like that's already a huge accomplishment as a cold application. So, do you have any advice on that?
I've learned that to work for big companies, you need to have experience in that same role in smaller companies. Advice number one. Advice number two is be nice to everybody. Um, there's been situations where I've had to just like keep up a happy face. And I remember this very vividly. I was at this very manually physical, labor intensive job, and it was very hard. It was very physically hard, and it took a toll on my personal attitude towards it. But my personal rule when it comes to jobs is they can say anything about me, but the one thing I won't allow them to say is he did a bad job or his attitude was terrible. So I was like, I don't care if I have to do XYZ, like I'll do it with a happy face and a good attitude. And at the end of the whole thing, one of my coworkers who I thought hated me, um, he comes up to me. He was like, Carlos, like, we didn't get a lot of chance to talk, and we went through a lot of stuff together. But like, I gotta give it to you, like your attitude. It was always great. It was always 10 out of 10 attitude. And I was like, that's good because I was so tired. So keep a good attitude always. Nobody likes working with somebody who has a bad attitude. Um, and And yeah, just start small. Definitely start small and grow bigger as you go along because um that's the journey I've been on. And make your own stuff. If nobody gives you opportunities, make your own stuff because nobody's hiring me to be an actor, that's for sure. But there's a lot of things that I do want to say with my shorts, and at this point I think it's things I can say by me acting in them. So make your own stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, do you have any upcoming projects that you can shout out, or what are like your goals in the next, like, let's say year or two? What do you hope to have achieved, or what do you think you will have achieved? Giving you a lot of options as to how to take this in case you don't want to like say anything too explicitly.
No, so I just moved to New York. So the thing I want to do right now is make a short. I want to make a short in New York. So if anybody from New York wants to make a short, hit me up because I would love to guerrilla shoot anything really. And my long-term goals is to have a short at South by. I wanted to have a short at South by for so long, so that's my goal in the next 5 years.
Okay, so we'll clip this, repost that when it happens,
Exactly,
and we'll be good.
exactly.
Awesome. And lastly, do you have any like current projects or social media accounts that you want to give a quick shout out to?
Yes, you guys can follow me on Instagram at Carlos E. Lerma, and all of my short films are available on YouTube. Same thing. It's all in my bio.
Thank you guys so much for watching episode 1 of Open Mouth. I'll see you next week, and as always, closed mouths don't get fed.